Hello again, Star Wars fans. I'm back. This time to talk about some thoughts on the Andor series. It's funny, when I do a search for speculations on the Andor series, not much turns up on YouTube, nor any other platform really. Sure, there are a few people out there posting leaks and rumors, but no one is really saying what they think the show will be or pretty much how they think the show will turn out. That's even amidst all the marketing going on for the new Star Wars series coming to Disney Plus, and there is a lot of marketing for it. I mean, come on. This show begins airing in just under 2 weeks. Does that mean there's little interest in it? I guess that's a possibility. When the series was announced, I thought, why Andor? Cassian Andor wasn't a bad character at all in Rogue One, and the film showed there was some shady stuff happening in the rebellion during the time of the Empire. But we know what happens to the character. And before I get too much into my thoughts and speculations of the Andor series, I will say this. This is a huge win for the Latino community in the Star Wars fandom, and that's awesome. I'm so proud of that. Now, back to the hype for the show. When I do a search for the Andor series, theories and speculations, I don't see much pop up, just ads for the show, mainly. There are also a couple negative titles showing up, such as Andor's breaking canon. Okay, this show hasn't even released yet. How do you know it's breaking canon? But as I said before, I wasn't particularly excited for this show, but now I realize something. Most of the other series we've seen had a certain amount of marketing geared towards children, or kids and tweens. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's what Star Wars has always been marketed for. That's right, middle-aged men, the toys are supposed to be for kids. But being a collector of Star Wars toys and memorabilia, I see why you do it. You can't help yourselves. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Star Wars has always been marketed for kids, but it has a certain amount of adult element to get the adults interested. But there are things that are obviously for kids, such as, I don't know, Grogu? Seriously, he's for kids. Not that he's a bad or undeserving character, but the older I get, the less I even like Ewoks, until I remember the adult piece of those creatures. They were cannibals. Grogu has been so heavily marketed that he was thrown into the Book of Boba Fett to remind kids, hey, this show's for you too. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series? How was that for kids? It's fairly obvious. Leia, her whole arc, was made for kids. If not, they wouldn't have had her easily escape grown-ass men in a forest. Yeah, I know she eventually got caught, but it was comical to see grown men stumbling to catch her. But everything I've seen of the Andor show seems very adult. That's a first. Not that I mind the kids stuff, but it does seem refreshing to give us old farts something. Even if the show is predictable. Predictable? Yeah, that's right. That's the right word. We know what happens to the Empire. We know what happens to Cassian Andor and ultimately the Rebellion. But does that mean it'll be a bad show? Not at all. There's just so much unknown about it. But at first glance at the trailers, I think to myself, wow, it's really hard to speculate some of the finer details of this show. Even if you don't like the sequels, we know some things would be shown. Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca. But there will be none of that in Andor. No fan service characters, no cameos, or at least that's what we've been told by Tony Gilroy, the showrunner for the Andor series. But we've been duped before. Ian McDiarmid promised there was no Emperor in the Kenobi series. We kind of knew that had to be a lie, though. I mean, Darth Vader is going to be prevalent. How could the Master holding his leash not make an appearance in the form of Emperor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious if you prefer? But this time I think it'll be different. I really don't think there will be any of the fan favorites, aside from Forrest Whitaker's character, Saw Gerrera. He's kind of become a staple in the Rebellion's cast of characters, though. Then it hit me. Actually, it just hit me, like right now. Saw Gerrera, he's shady. He's one that brings an adult element into the Star Wars universe. He gives no F's at all. He will kill innocent people to get one Imperial officer if it means victory against the Empire. He doesn't care for the larger rebellion because he sees them as weak and unwilling to do what it takes to win the war. We know this. We've seen it of Saw Gerrera, but I'll get back to him in just a bit. there will be no legacy characters in the Andor series. A lot of people will be upset by that. A certain amount of the fandom sees those characters as the heart of Star Wars and the reason it was successful for so long. But at least to me, it's a good thing they won't be in it. I don't want to see Obi-Wan Kenobi show up to save the day. I wouldn't mind seeing Darth Vader mowing down rebels again, but we've seen that, and it doesn't make much sense to have him in it. The simple reason? The rebels in Rogue One had no idea who or what Darth Vader was when he ignited his lightsaber in that corridor. That means they had never heard of him and what he can do. To have him appear in the timeline before that moment, at least for this story, makes no sense. Another good thing is that Andor series takes place too early in the timeline for Luke Skywalker to also show up to save the day. Sorry, grown men, there won't be a special Luke Skywalker action figure released for this show. Bummer. The biggest thing I've noticed about the trailers I've seen, and I may be judging a book by its cover too early, there doesn't seem to be a lot of the things that we associate with Star Wars. Yes, there are stormtroopers, and it looks like clone troopers at some point, but there aren't lightsabers, Jedi, Sith, a ton of aliens, or even bounty hunters or Mandalorians. Honestly, I wouldn't mind Mandalorians be in it. But from what we can tell, they aren't. That means this series may not be about show and tell or fan service. It looks to actually be about the story, other than how much Star Wars can we cram into this show. So that's why I get the impression that this will be more adult than most other Star Wars projects we've seen from the Disney era, or really any Star Wars era. And that brings me back to Saw Gerrera. We've seen him in 2 animated Star Wars shows, and he's been in novels and video games, as well as Rogue One. In the animated series, they couldn't really dive into how brutal he really was. It was animated. It was for kids. In Rogue One, we were meant to see how paranoid he had become in the last days of his life. So, not very active in the fight against the Empire. But now, we are getting a Saw Gerrera that is in the middle of the struggle and has potential to not be comical, as in his live-action appearance in Rogue One. Saw Gerrera was very serious in his fight. To see jokes made of him in Rogue One was a bit unnerving. But then again, that was an element they used to tame him down for kids. So that brings me to my only speculation for the Andor series. It's going to be more brutal than what we've previously seen from the Disney-led Star Wars franchise. But on the other hand, it is Disney. They are primarily geared towards kids and tweens. Not this time, though. In order to combat streaming services like Netflix, Disney needs something of a Stranger Things in the Star Wars universe. I'm not talking about paranormal mysteries involving kids. I'm talking about graphic depictions of the horrors of battle. Okay, not too graphic, though. This isn't Game of Thrones. But something along the lines of Stranger Things. Disturbing, but not scarring. If that makes any sense. That's why Saw Gerrera won't be a focus of the show, but rather the adult element so many of us grown people have been craving. So, move over, kids, and let the adults watch some Star Wars for a while. That's all I have for today. I'd like to know what you think, though. Let me know in the comments if you'll even be watching the Andor series, have any predictions on it, or if you're just burnt out on Star Wars, period, which I am not. This is Gerald from Star Wars Fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.